What's the worst pain you've ever felt? I shot a 3.5-inch spiral nail into my finger. The doctor pulled it out with pliers, no freezing or painkillers. I had 3 nurses holding me down. I've broken many bones, and it doesn't even come close to comparing. I've had 2 open heart surgeries and I have a pacemaker to boot. Also had 2 major spinal surgeries, and I'm having a 3rd one next month. I just can't stay away. My doctor has a real nice car now. In a hoe. They are very painful, so I get it entirely. In fact, until I met my current wife, I'd decided I was going to forego the surgery next time my heart starts failing. It's a given. 2 to 5 years from now, to let nature takes its course. I just couldn't justify all of that for what little life had to offer. Now I'm married, and there's so much worth fighting and suffering for. I broke my femur in a car accident. All I felt was pure adrenaline, like I had never felt before, and no pain. They got me to the hospital fairly quickly and hit me with 2 shots of morphine as soon as possible. Next thing I know, they were drilling a hole through my calf with a power drill so they could set the leg with a pin, and I was wide awake with no pain due to the drugs. It was the other driver's 60-UR offense. Gout. The foot swelled up massively. It was bright red and hot to the touch. Touch was the last thing I wanted. Just having enough air movement to shift the hairs on my foot was excruciating. Unbelievable pain that I couldn't escape from. I swelled so much that when it finally went back to normal, the skin sloughed off, like I had had a massive sunburn. I could feel every heartbeat, painfully, in my foot. I was ice skating and going through a major growth spurt when I was 13. The skates were too tight. I hit a crack in the ice and did a maneuver to stop from falling on my face. Well, crack. Snap. I shattered my tibia from just below the knee all the way down to the ankle in a spiral fracture. Because the skates were so tight, in fact, that when I hobbled and limped off of the ice and had them removed, my leg did not immediately swell up. I knew my bone was broken. I could feel and hear the various shards of shin bone grinding up against one another in the muscles. Yet, people assumed at most I maybe bruised my bone. I went home, limping and in the worst physical pain. My father said I was okay, but after about 12 hours and the pain just getting worse, I finally was taken to the ER, where I learned I fractured my leg in 8 different spots on the tibia. I had to get metal pins put in, and was in various casts for 4 straight months and a boot for 2. Walked into the house to see my kid sitting on the couch as hen-faced with their arm on a cushion. My partner asked, "Do you think it's broken?" I said, "Yep, you can see the bend." They then said, "Are you sure?" Why the fuck would I say what I just said about our child if I did not think it was the case? I thought they were waiting for me to get home from work to watch the siblings so they could go to the hospital. They had been sitting chewing over the decision for an hour. I was not impressed. Mind you, I was the bone breaker, face splitter, arm slicer of a child in my family. I can understand when someone needs medical attention and not a fucking hug. I sat up to leave after a meeting at work and my entire back seized up. It was all I could do to make it home. I had to lay on the couch in a weird position just to experience no pain. The slightest movement, even lifting a fork, and my back would seize up again. I finally forced myself that night to go to the ER because my mind was racing with what it could be. X-rays showed nothing, so I don't know to this day what happened. It was about a week before I could fully move. Worst pain I've ever felt. I was like 4, running around a table chasing my 3Y/0 little cousin. I slipped on a bouncy ball and I fell on the corner of the table, which sliced open my nose, exposing the bone. It was scary FBC, it was so close to my eye. Worst pain wasn't even that. It was when my 11-year-old sister put ice on it. Ice on my freaking bone. It burned so much. WTFY, would you put ice on it? We went to the hospital and I remember hearing count to 3. Then I dozed off. Woke up with a shitload of chocolate and a bitching scar. Scar is still here and will be, but I don't mind it. Trigeminal neuralgia. It's called the suicide disease for a very good reason. It felt like my jaw was being crushed in a vice. The pain is beyond description. An episode would last for 8 to 10 hours, and no painkiller touched it. I would hit my head on things trying to knock myself out. For comparison, I was getting an x-ray for a bad backache, and when I gave the urine sample you have to give first, the tech saw that I had stones in it. Kidney stones. My bad backache was fucking kidney stones. TN really recalibrates your pain meter. Nothing goes past a 6 anymore. I had brain surgery 9 years ago to fix it, and it's the best damn decision I ever made. I'm nervous because it's often not a permanent fix, and I'm afraid it will come back, but I'm so thankful to be pain-free for now. To this day I don't know why, but one day, when I was 15, I had an episode of tremendous nerve pain while at school. I could barely speak. I asked the teacher for help, and she told me to wait until next period. With shuddering breaths, eyes squeezed shut because light hurt, I begged my classmates to call an ambulance. No one did. I was slumped over my desk for what felt like hours. I know I lost consciousness at one point. I just hoped someone would get home help, but nobody did. At a certain point, I decided to run to another classroom for help. I don't know what happened, but I woke up on the girls' bathroom floor, a girl asking if I was okay. I asked her to call 911. I thought I was dying, and she got a teacher. At this point, I was fading out of consciousness again. The teacher kept asking me questions. She thought I had overdosed. Laying in the floor, I thought I had somehow been flayed. My skin felt raw and exposed. My clothing touching my skin burned. Once again, I begged for an ambulance. I became unconscious again. By the time the ambulance came, the pain had begun to subside, though it was still considerable. I was concerned about the effects of being unconscious, but they refused to do any checks, and instead only checked for STDs. I asked for something to dull the pain, but they could only give me baby aspirin. After testing negative, they sent me home. I occasionally get episodes of nerve pain like this, but never as bad as that day. One day I was in class and my stomach hurt so bad I could barely breathe. It was in my computer's class, so I typed out "I need to leave" and got the teacher's attention. She immediately started asking if I was okay and helped me up to leave the classroom. I made it to the cafeteria, where I had to sit down. At this point I was beet red, drenched in sweat, with tears running down my face, rocking back and forth holding onto the table so hard I snapped off the corner. The counselor came out, and they called my mom to ask what she wanted done. She was off that day, so she drove up to school, and it had subsided enough for me to walk to the car. I hopped in the passenger side, and within 2 minutes the pain was completely gone. My mom thought I had been faking it, and said something to that effect, but the look I gave her was enough to convince her otherwise. So she took me home, and I went to bed, and slept for over 20 hours straight. No idea what it was, but I'm grateful that everyone took it seriously. When I was in middle school, I got a cyst right on my spine. I told my parents that my back was hurting really bad, and they told me to suck it up, and so I did. And then a few days later, still in pain, but no longer wanting to tell my parents, my shirt rode up as I was leaning down to grab something, and my mom saw a lump on my spine. She freaked out, thinking it was a tumor, and I was at the doctor's office the next day. The cyst burst while I was in the office, and we were instructed to go straight to the ER. I cried the whole way. The pain was extremely intense. I was on antibiotics for a very long time, and I developed lower back pain very shortly after. I can't say with certainty that my back pain is related, but it's in the same spot, and I didn't have it beforehand. I was rock climbing at a gym and topped out on a route. On my way down I forgot that you should land with both of the soles of your feet touching the floor. Let's just say the side of one of my feet was touching the side of my calves. My right foot was completely limp and wiggling around like a ragdoll, and then the pain kicked in. 2 years later I've gotten my mobility back completely, but there seems to be permanent swelling on my ankle, plus on rainy days it starts to ache. Probably when my appendix burst. I didn't go to the doctors for a while cause I thought it would resolve itself. Eventually I thought that, since I had a race, motorcycles, coming up in a few days, I should probably make sure it was nothing. I drove myself there, got check-in. They told me my appendix had burst, and I should have come in a long time ago. My kidneys had shut down, and I needed emergency surgery. I asked if it could wait till after the race. They said no, huge infection was no bueno for many days, and extremely weak after for a long. Well, worst part was they had to put a drain tub in my butt cheek, not into the brown bear's cave, to drain pus for a few weeks. I had dry socket and hadn't slept in days because of it. They had to pull the stitches out, rinse it with water, and put some little thing that looked like a floppy pH tester tab. Best description I can think of. I was very out of it when this happened and shoved it in the tooth hole. Cleaning the tooth hole out with the water and putting the medicine in was the worst fucking pain I've ever experienced. Then the doc had to do it again in the other side, and I was panicking. I cried the entire time and held my mom's hand. I was only 18 Mayo. Once he did, we left the office, and I felt good enough that only 20 minutes later I had the first solid food I'd had in days. Don't throw up blood clots when you get your wisdom teeth taken out, kids. I'm super lucky that that's the worst I've ever felt, and not anything else. I was giving a presentation at work when I felt what seemed like a small explosion inside my head. I screamed and collapsed, thinking it was an aneurysm or a bullet and I'd be dead in seconds. I really thought life was over and I would never knew what hit me. Everyone came running to my aid, of course, and I was loaded into a Prius and rushed to a hospital. I remember a doctor looking in my mouth and saying, "Oh my god." He then grabbed a pair of pliers and pulled the wisdom teeth on one side out of my head without the special effects, while holding my head like a jar of pickles that wouldn't open. A massive infection drained out of the newly created hole. Apparently I had a monstrously massive abscess that had ruptured into my head and almost flooded my brain. TLDR, firecracker went off in my brain. Doctor saved my life by creating a hole in my head via viciously plucked wisdom tooth. Edit. I had a phantom twinge of pain just writing this. Whenever I think about it, I'm tempted to go have the rest of my teeth pulled just to prevent it from happening again. Warning. Disturbing things happen to my southern bits. Adverse reaction to a topical antibiotic on my entire genital area. I was on a walk and felt this horrible discomfort like my skin kept sticking to my boxers, so I rushed home to look. It was the grossest and most disturbing thing I've ever seen happen to anybody's junk, and I've seen a dick get cut in half the long way. I was bleeding from every pore and terribly swollen and tender. I went to the ER where 3 doctors, including the head doctor of the ER, and 2 nurses stared between my legs and tried to hide their horrified expressions. I'm certain some of them just wanted to see and didn't really need to be there, but I didn't really care because I was given narcotics to help with the pain. It took the rest of the day for the swelling to go down and about a week to heal completely. I still have some scarring from the skin basically just peeling off, but luckily it's not in a terribly noticeable area. Thanks for watching. In comments, write about similar facts and situations from your life. If you enjoy this video, watch other on my channel, and have a nice day.